So this video is going to have an explanation on each question of the quiz. I am going off of version A. So if you have version B, all you have to do is look for this exact question, but it's not going to be number one. You got to find it. Okay. So if you have version B, please just find the question that I'm explaining. As a matter of fact, let's state it. So there it is. Version B, number one is number 14. So we want to be able to find the missing value r, and we know that since we're dealing with slope, we have to use a slope formula. So there's our slope formula, and let's label it. This is x, this is y, x, y, this is 1. This is our second point. So now all we have to do is plug in everything. So I'm going to plug in the slope 1/2. Maybe I shouldn't do it like that. Maybe I should just circle the 1/2. So the slope 1/2 is going to be in there for m. So it's really going to be 1/2 equals, and let's plug in our values. y2 is 7. So there are our values plugged in. So we have to deal with this equation. What I'm going to do is zoom in on it, and I'm going to solve this equation. First thing to do is to change the minus to plus plus. So I'm going to have the new equation that says 1/2 equals 7 minus r over 8. And now we could cross multiply at this point, as long as you remember to put the binomial in parentheses. So if I were to cross multiply 1 times 8, let me write it out. 1 times 8 equals 2 times 7 minus r. Let me rewrite it up here. So we really have 8 equals, and let's distribute the 2. 2 times 7 is 14, and 2 times negative r is negative 2r. So I have 14 minus 2r. And now we could solve this equation by getting rid of the 14. So we're going to subtract 14. It's going to cancel, subtract 14. And we're going to end up with negative 6 equals negative 2r. Final step will be to divide by negative 2, which means that r equals positive 3, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So on number 1, our correct answer is C. Now, if you had version B, this is actually number 14. Let's move on to the next one, number 2. Now, number 2 is number 16 on version B. And once again, we're going to use the slope formula. So there's my formula. Everything is labeled. And now let's plug in our values. But notice right here it says m is undefined. So if it's undefined, you know it's going to be a fraction with 0 underneath. So let's first start with that. The m value is undefined. So I'm going to put a fraction, and it doesn't matter what number's on top. If it's undefined, I know 0's underneath. Then I have the equal sign. Let's put the division, the subtractions, and let's plug in our y2, which is 5, our y1, which is 4, our x2, which is r, and our x1, which is 1. Sorry about that r, let me fix that. So we have an equation that says a number over 0 equals 5 minus 4, that's 1, over r minus 1. So the bottom line is the denominator r minus 1, this denominator right here, r minus 1, we know that it has to equal 0, because that's what an undefined slope has as a denominator. So what we need to do is just ignore everything else and recognize that r minus 1 has to equal 0. And if you were to solve that, plus 1, you're going to get r equals 1. So the correct answer is D for number 2. Okay, you don't have to cross multiply. You don't have to do all the work that we did on the one before, because it says that the slope is undefined. And if it's undefined, that simply means that 0 is underneath. So you have one fraction equal to another fraction. If you want that denominator to be 0, this has to be equal to 0. So when you set it, r minus 1 equals 0, and you solve it, r will equal 1. And that's your answer for number 2 on version A, number 16 on version B. Let's move on to number 3. So number 3 is actually number 15 on version B. And we're going to go through the same process. We're going to set up our slope formula? Moving on to number 4 on version A. This is number 7 on version B. And all we have to do is find the slope. Now, so we could use the slope formula, but honestly that would be a waste of time. All we have to do is recognize that slope is really rise over run. Okay, now the rise, if it's going up, it's positive. If it's going down, it's negative. But the run, we're always going to look at it from left to right being positive. So they give us this point, this coordinate, and this coordinate. All we have to do is look at it from left to right. So from this point to this point, is it going up or is it going down? Down. It's going down, so it's going to be a negative rise. So we know that this is going to be a negative slope. So how many spaces does it go down? How many units?
2, 3,
3. Okay, so we have 3 going down. So what does that mean? That our slope is 3 going down, negative 3 up on top. Now how much does it run from this value of x to this value of x? 1 unit, right? So you go down 1, 2, 3, and you go over 1. So the run is 1. And remember, run is always positive. We're always looking at it from left to right. So the slope is negative 3 over 1, which means that the slope is just negative 3. Okay, negative 3. So letter C is, or the answer for number 4 on version A is C, which is number 7 on version B. Let's move on to number 5. So number 5 is number 5 on both versions A and B. They just want us to find the slope. So let's find the slope using the slope formula. So of course we're going to simply plug in our values. So y2 is negative 5, y1 is negative 3, x2 is negative 7, x1 is negative 9. And the reason why we do the divisions and the subtractions first is so we could clearly see the minus minus that have to change the plus plus. So what we really have on top is negative 2, because negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. And it's going to be over, on the bottom we have positive 2, because negative 7 plus 9 is positive 2. So negative 2 divided by positive 2, the answer is going to be negative, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So A is the correct answer for number 5 on both versions A and B. Let's move on to number 6. Right here, they want us to find the slope. All you have to do is count rise over run. Now remember, if it's going up, it's positive, but if it's going down, it's negative. But you always look at it from left to right. Positive down here. So of course, let's look at this line from left. This is the left side of the line going to the right. Is it going up or down? It's going up. So it's going to be a positive rise. How much does it actually rise from here up to here? It actually rises 1, 2, 3, 4. and it runs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer is 4 over 5. There's not much to it. Nice, easy, free point that I hope everybody got right. If you did not get this one right, make sure you understand it because it's going to pop out again on Friday's test, 100 points. Number 6 was for version A. What's number 6 on version B? So this one was number 8 on version B. Let's move on to number 7. So number 7 on version A is number 2 on version B. Again, slope formula and label them and use a formula. So there's my formula. Let's use it. Do the division and the subtractions first. Plug in your y2, which is negative 4, your y1, which is 3, your x2, which is 7, your x1, which is 6. So when we do the math, on top we have negative 7, because negative 4 minus 3, if you owe 4 and you owe 3, you're going to owe 7 altogether. And on the bottom, 7 take away 6 is 1. So negative 7 divided by 1 is negative 7, which means the answer is B, not D. I saw a lot of people put D as the answer. That's incorrect. So please make sure that you understand any number over 1 is simply that number. Negative 7 over 1 is simply negative 7. Let's move on to number 8. They want us to find the slope right here. Remember, slope is steepness. How steep is this line?
Very steep.
This is very steep? This is the opposite of steep, right? If you put a marble right here, it's not going to go this way or that way because it's totally flat. So the steepness is what?
Undefined.
It's 0.
Oh.
Undefined is when it's so steep that it's perfectly vertical, right? Undefined is that it's so steep that it's perfectly vertical. Let's move on. Oh yeah, by the way, this was number 8 on version A. What was it on version B? 4. Thank you very much. So number 4 on version B. Let's move on to number 9 on version A. Once again, slope formula. And once again, let's use the slope formula by doing the division and the subtractions first, and then plugging in our y2 value, which is 5, our y1 value, which is 8, our x2 value, which is negative 7, our x1 value, which is negative 7. And of course, the minus minus changes to plus plus. What happens when you have a negative 7 plus 7? It becomes 0 in the denominator. So you have negative 3 over 0, but anything with the 0 underneath is undefined. Right? Underneath, undefined. Undy. Number 10, same deal. Slope formula. By the way, number 10 on version A is number 1 on version B. So again, let's use the slope formula. And let's plug in the appropriate values. So y2 is 8, y1 is negative 4, x2 is 4, x1 is 7. The minus minus changes to plus plus. We end up with the 12 up on top, and 4 take away 7 is negative 3. So 12 over negative 3 is really 12 divided by negative 3, so the answer is negative 4. So this is number 1 on version B. This is number 10 right here on version A. Let's move on to 11 on version A. Another slope problem. There's so many slope problems. There won't be that many on Fridays. I want to chop it down. But let's continue. Write the slope formula and then plug in your values. And as you could see right here, 9 take away 9 is 0. So you end up with 0 on top over negative 2 on the bottom. It doesn't matter what number's on the bottom. 0 divided by any number is 0. So that was number 11 on version A, which is number 3 on version B. Let's continue on to number 12. So here are the necessary notes to be able to do this. Yeah, you guys wrote this down in your notebooks. It says an equation is not linear if you have two variables being multiplied together. It's not linear if a variable is in the denominator of a fraction. It's not linear if a variable has an exponent on it. So if we take a look at number 12 right here, it's not linear. Why not? Because there's a x times y. So that's not linear. So yes, it's linear. That's wrong. Okay, can't be this guy, can't be that guy. It's just no, it's not linear. Yay? Yep. Moving on. Is this one linear? And once again, looking at our notes, does it have two variables being multiplied together? No. Does it have a variable in the denominator? No. Does it have a variable with an exponent on it? No. So this one's definitely linear. Okay? So if it is linear, we want to rewrite it in standard form. Now, remember, standard form is Capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C, and it's capitalized to help you remember that you don't want decimals or fractions. So the very first thing to do would be to get rid of the fraction x over 4 and get rid of the fraction y over 3. You don't want these denominators. So you could get rid of the 4 by multiplying by 4, multiplying by 4, multiplying by 4, and then multiplying this by 3, that by 3 to get rid of this 3. Or you could get rid of both fractions at the same time by multiplying by your LCD. What's the LCD in this case? What's the LCD of 4 and 3? 12. So we're going to multiply everything by 12 to get rid of those fractions. Check it out. Put a 12 right here, put a 12 right here, and put a times 12 over here, all being multiplied by 12. And now if you do have a 12 up on top and you divide it by 4 on the bottom, you're going to get a 3 left over. And of course, 3 times x is 3x. And then 12 divided by 3 is 4. And 4 times y is 4y, but don't forget about the minus sign that's in front. And then 1 times 12 over here, that's just 12. And ladies and gentlemen, that's your standard form equation. We got rid of the fractions. So if we look for 3x minus 4y equals 12, it's either A or B. And now for the final thing that they ask, they're asking for the x and the y intercepts. So let's find the x and the y intercepts of 3x minus 4y equals 12. In order to find the x-intercept, you could cover up the y. So if you do cover up the y and you think about the x-intercept, now solve what's left over. Divide by 3, your x-intercept is 4. So this one says that the x-intercept's -3. This one says that the x-intercept's 3. So you want the one that says the x-intercept is 4. If you wanted the y-intercept, all you have to do is cover up your x and then solve this leftover equation. That would be y-intercept of -3. So let's take a look. This one is the one that's correct because yes, it's linear. This is our standard form equation, and this one has the x-intercept of 4 and the y-intercept of -3. Of course, I didn't show my work. You could show your work by doing x int, set y equal to 0, then solve, and then y int, set x equal to 0, then solve. So we're going to pick up the quiz on the next video, starting with number 14 and the rest.